Copa room at the Sands Hotel was packed to capacity on the night of March 17, 1963, with every seat filled and people standing 3 deep at the bar, all desperate to see the Rat Pack perform. The air was thick with cigarette smoke and expectation, the kind of electric atmosphere that only happened when Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop took the stage together. This wasn't just entertainment, it was an event, a moment in cultural history happening in real time, and everyone in that room knew it. Frank was in the middle of one of his signature numbers, I've Got the World on a String, his voice soaring through the room with that effortless confidence that made even the most complicated phrasing sound casual. Dean stood stage left, nursing a drink and waiting for his cue to interrupt with some perfectly timed mockery. Joey was at his microphone, preparing one of his razor-sharp one-liners. Peter lounged in a chair, looking aristocratic and amused by the controlled chaos around him. And Sammy was in his element, standing stage right, moving to the rhythm, his body already anticipating the moment when Frank would finish and it would be his turn to explode across that stage with the kind of talent that made even Frank Sinatra occasionally shake his head in amazement. What the audience didn't know, what even most of the Rat Pack didn't fully understand, was that Sammy Davis Jr. shouldn't have been on that stage at all. He'd been sick for 3 days, not just a cold or a sore throat, but genuinely seriously ill, the kind of illness that would have sent most people to the hospital. His temperature had spiked to 103 degrees the night before. He'd been vomiting, his vision was blurry, his body ached in ways that suggested something far more serious than the flu. But this was Sammy Davis Jr., the man who'd lost an eye in a car accident and was back performing within months, who'd faced down racism and death threats and career obstacles that would have destroyed lesser talents, who approached every performance like it might be his last chance to prove he belonged on the same stage as the greatest entertainers in the world. There was no universe in which Sammy would miss a Rat Pack show if he could still stand. So he dragged himself out of bed, popped aspirin and vitamin pills, drank strong coffee, and told everyone he was fine, just a little under the weather, nothing to worry about. He pushed down the dizziness and the nausea and the way his heart seemed to be beating irregularly, and he'd shown up at the Sands ready to perform. Because that's what Sammy Davis Jr. did. He performed. Frank finished his song to thunderous applause, took a small bow, and gestured towards Sammy. "Ladies and gentlemen, you want to see something really special? Watch this cat work. He's got more talent in his little finger than most people have in their whole body. Mr. Sammy Davis Jr." The spotlight swung to Sammy, catching him in its bright circle. The applause was immediate and enthusiastic. Sammy smiled his brilliant smile, that megawatt grin that could light up a room, and moved to center stage. That's when Frank noticed something was wrong. Sammy's walk wasn't quite right. There was a hesitation in his step, a subtle wobble that anyone who didn't know him well would have missed. But Frank had been performing with Sammy for years, had watched him move across thousands of stages, and he knew with absolute certainty that something was off. Dean noticed it too. He straightened up, his perpetual air of amused detachment evaporating as he focused on Sammy with the intensity of a man who'd learned to read his friends for danger signs. Sammy reached center stage, gripped the microphone, and started into the birth of the blues. His voice was strong. Sammy's voice was always strong, even when the rest of his body was failing. And for a moment, Frank thought maybe he'd been wrong. Maybe Sammy was just tired. Maybe everything was fine. Then Sammy's knees buckled. It was subtle at first, a slight dip, quickly corrected. Sammy kept singing, kept performing, his professionalism overriding the warning signs his body was screaming. But Frank saw it, Dean saw it, and they both moved instinctively towards Sammy, closing the distance without making it obvious, positioning themselves as backup without calling to attention that something was wrong.
Sammy made it through another verse, his hands gripping the microphone stand now, using it for support in a way that might have looked like dramatic styling to the audience, but that Frank recognized as desperation. Then Sammy's voice cracked, not the controlled crack of a performer adding emotion, but the involuntary break of a body that was shutting down. His eyes lost focus, his grip on the microphone loosened, and Sammy Davis Jr., the most talented man anyone in that room had ever seen, collapsed. He went down hard, the microphone stand falling with him, the sound system screaming feedback through the speakers. The audience gasped, a collective intake of breath from nearly 500 people who just watched something go terribly, frighteningly wrong. For a split second, everyone froze. The orchestra stopped playing. The audience sat in shocked silence. Even Dean, who rarely showed surprise, stood motionless. But Frank didn't freeze. Frank Sinatra moved faster than anyone would have thought possible for a man in his late 40s. He was across the stage before the microphone had stopped rolling, dropping to his knees beside Sammy, his hands already checking for a pulse, for breathing, for any sign of what was happening to his friend. Sammy, talk to me." Frank's voice was sharp with fear, all the performance stripped away, leaving only raw concern. Sammy's eyes were half open, unfocused. His skin was gray, slicked with sweat. His breathing was shallow and rapid. He tried to speak, his lips moving, but no sound came out. "Sammy, can't breathe." Frank's jaw tightened. He looked up at Dean. "Where the fuck is that doctor?" "Coming," Dean said, his voice steady, but his eyes betraying his worry. "He's coming, Frank." What happened next would be talked about in Las Vegas for decades, would become part of the Rat Pack legend, would be the subject of countless retellings and embellishments. But the core of it, the truth of it, was this. Frank Sinatra, one of the most famous men in the world, the chairman of the board, Old Blue Eyes himself, made a decision in about 2 seconds that revealed everything about who he was and what mattered to him. The hotel doctor arrived, bustling onto the stage with his medical bag. He was a competent man, used to dealing with the various medical emergencies that occurred in a major casino: heart attacks, overdoses, injuries from fights. He immediately began examining Sammy, checking his vitals, asking questions.
When did he start feeling ill? Has he been drinking? Does he have any medical conditions? Frank answered as best he could, but he didn't know everything. None of them knew everything about Sammy's health, because Sammy, like many performers, kept his struggles private, didn't want to appear weak, didn't want to give anyone a reason to question whether he could deliver. The doctor's expression grew more concerned. His blood pressure is dangerously low. His heart rate is erratic. He needs to be in a hospital immediately. We need to call an ambulance. How long will that take? Frank demanded. 10, maybe 15 minutes for them to get here, and then transport time to the hospital? That's too long. Frank stood abruptly, making a decision. Dean, Peter, help me get him up. We're taking him ourselves. Frank, the doctor started to protest. I said we're taking him. Frank's voice carried that particular edge it got when contradiction wasn't just unwelcome, but impossible. Joey, you clear a path through the casino to my car. Dean, you get his legs. Peter, help me with his shoulders. We're moving now. The doctor tried again. Mr. Sinatra, I strongly advise against moving him without proper... Frank turned to him, his ice blue eyes absolutely glacial. You can come with us or you can stay here, but we're leaving now. Make your choice. The doctor, recognizing that arguing with Frank Sinatra when he'd made up his mind was futile, grabbed his bag. I'll come with you. What happened next shocked everyone in the Copa room. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Peter Lawford, 3 of the most famous entertainers in the world, all in tuxedos, all scheduled to perform for another hour, lifted Sammy Davis Jr. and carried him off the stage. Not carefully, not slowly, but with urgent efficiency. Frank cradled Sammy's head and shoulders. Dean had his legs. Peter supported his midsection. They moved as one unit, practiced coordination that came from years of working together, from knowing each other's rhythms and strengths. Joey Bishop ran ahead of them, physically pushing through the crowd that had gathered. "Make way! Medical emergency! Move aside, please!" The audience watched in stunned silence as the Rat Pack carried their fallen brother through the casino. Frank's face was set in an expression of fierce concentration, all his legendary toughness focused on the single task of getting Sammy to help. Dean, who's usually the picture of relaxed cool, was sweating with exertion and worry. Peter, whose aristocratic bearing usually kept him slightly removed from the chaos, was fully engaged, his hands steady despite the fear in his eyes. They made it through the casino floor, past card tables where players stood up to watch, past slot machines that suddenly seemed obscenely cheerful with their bells and lights, past dealers and pit bosses and tourists who couldn't believe what they were seeing. Frank's Cadillac was waiting outside, parked illegally at the front entrance because Frank Sinatra didn't wait for valets and didn't worry about parking regulations. They loaded Sammy into the back seat, as gently as urgency allowed. The doctor climbed in beside him. Frank got behind the wheel. Dean jumped into the passenger seat. "Peter, you and Joey handle things here," Frank said, his hand already turning the ignition. "Tell Jack and Tratter what happened. Cancel the rest of the shows. I don't give a damn about the money. Sammy comes first." "Frank, I'm coming with you," Peter protested. "Someone needs to stay and manage this situation. The press is going to be all over this. Make sure they understand Sammy's getting the best care possible. Make sure they know he's going to be okay." "Is he going to be okay?" Frank's jaw tightened. He has to be. Then, Frank Sinatra, who was usually driven everywhere by bodyguards and drivers, who had people to handle logistics and problems, drove through Las Vegas like a man possessed. He ran red lights, he ignored speed limits, he laid on the horn at anyone who didn't get out of his way fast enough. In the back seat, the doctor was trying to stabilize Sammy, monitoring his vitals, giving him oxygen from a portable tank. Sammy drifted in and out of consciousness, his breathing still shallow, his face still that frightening gray color. Dean, who'd been in more tight spots with Frank than he could count, who'd seen Frank in rage and grief and triumph, had never seen him quite like this. There was a controlled panic in the way Frank drove, a barely contained terror that his friend might die before they could get help. "How far?" Dean asked. "5 more minutes, maybe less if traffic cooperates." "How's he doing back there?" Dean called to the doctor. "Not good. We need to hurry." Frank's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "We're hurrying." They made it to Sunrise Hospital in 7 minutes, a drive that should have taken 15. Frank screeched to a halt at the emergency entrance, already shouting for help before he turned off the engine. Hospital staff came running with a gurney. They transferred Sammy from the car, the doctor rattling off medical information: blood pressure, heart rate, suspected diagnosis. Frank, Dean, and the doctor followed the gurney into the hospital, Frank refusing to be stopped by anyone telling him he needed to wait in a designated area. "I'm not waiting anywhere," Frank told a nurse who tried to direct him to a waiting room. "That's my friend. I'm staying with him." "Sir, you... Only family can..." "I am family. Now either you let me through or you physically remove me. Your choice." Something in Frank's face, the raw fear mixed with determination, made the nurse step aside. Frank followed Sammy into the examination room, Dean right behind him, both of them refusing to be separated from their friend until they knew he was going to be okay. The emergency room team worked with efficient precision, hooking Sammy up to monitors, starting IVs, running tests. A doctor arrived, a real doctor, not just the hotel physician, and began a thorough examination. Frank and Dean stood against the wall, trying to stay out of the way, but refusing to leave. Dean pulled out a cigarette, caught the look from a nurse, and put it back. Frank just stood there, his arms crossed, his eyes never leaving Sammy's still form on the examination table. "Mr. Sinatra?" A doctor approached them, his expression serious.
I'm Dr. Harrison. I'll be treating Mr. Davis. Is he going to be okay? Frank's voice was rough, stripped of all performance, just raw need to know. He has a severe infection that's caused sepsis. Essentially, his body's immune system is overreacting to the infection and shutting down. His blood pressure dropped dangerously low, which caused him to pass out. If you'd waited for an ambulance, let's just say your decision to bring him immediately probably saved his life. We can treat this, but it was critical that we got to him quickly. How long has he been sick? Frank asked. 3 days that I know of, maybe longer. He didn't tell us. He was supposed to perform tonight and he showed up. That's Sammy. He always shows up.
Well, he pushed himself too far this time. His body couldn't take it. The doctor made notes on a chart. We're going to admit him, get him on strong antibiotics, monitor him closely. He'll need to stay here for at least a week, maybe longer. Whatever he needs, Frank said immediately. Whatever it costs, whatever equipment, whatever specialists, you get it. Money's not an issue. Just make him better. We'll do everything we can. Will he be able to perform again? His career? With proper treatment and rest, yes, he should make a full recovery. But Mr. Sinatra, he needs to understand that he can't ignore his health like this. Performing while this sick, pushing through symptoms, that's what nearly killed him tonight. Frank nodded, but his expression was troubled, because he understood something the doctor didn't. Sammy would do it again, would push through pain and illness and exhaustion, because performing wasn't just what Sammy did, it was who he was. Taking that away would be like asking him to stop breathing. They moved Sammy to a private room later that night. The antibiotics were working, his color was improving, and he'd regained consciousness, though he was weak and groggy. Frank sat in a chair beside the hospital bed, still in his tuxedo from the show, his bow tie undone, his hair uncharacteristically mussed. Dean had gone to make phone calls, to Sammy's wife, to the rest of the Rat Pack, to Jack and Trader at the Sands to handle the canceled shows. But Frank had refused to leave, had pulled rank and charm and sheer force of personality to be allowed to stay past visiting hours. Sammy's eye opened, his good eye, the one that had survived the car accident years ago. He looked at Frank, disoriented, trying to figure out where he was and what had happened. Frank? His voice was barely a whisper. I'm here, Charlie. Frank leaned forward, gripping Sammy's hand. I'm right here. The show? Did I finish the show? Despite everything, Frank smiled. No, you asshole, you collapsed on stage and scared the shit out of all of us. Sammy's face crumpled with something like grief. I ruined the show. You didn't ruin anything. You got sick. It happens. I should have been stronger, should have pushed through. You nearly died, Frank interrupted, his voice sharp. You understand that? You nearly died on that stage because you were trying to push through something that needed medical attention. The doctor said if we'd waited even another 20 minutes for an ambulance, if we hadn't gotten you here when we did, Frank couldn't finish the sentence. The reality of how close they'd come to losing Sammy was hitting him now, the adrenaline wearing off, leaving behind the shaking aftermath of terror. Sammy saw the fear in Frank's face, and his own expression changed. I'm sorry, Frank. I didn't mean to. Don't apologize for being sick. But Sammy, you have to promise me something. Frank's grip on Sammy's hand tightened. You have to promise me that if you're sick like this again, if something's wrong, you'll tell us. You'll get help. You won't try to tough it out and perform anyway. Frank, I can't promise that. You know what this business is like. If I show weakness, if people think I can't deliver, I don't give a damn what people think. You're worth more than any show, more than any performance. You understand? You're not just a talent to me. You're not just a member of the Rat Pack. You're my brother. And I can't. Frank's voice cracked. I can't lose you, Sammy. Not like this. Not because you were too stubborn to admit you needed help. Sammy looked at Frank, really looked at him, and saw something he'd rarely seen in the chairman's ice blue eyes. Tears. Frank Sinatra, the tough guy, the one who never showed weakness, was crying. "You carried me out?" Sammy asked softly, the memory coming back in fragments. "You and Dean. We carried you through the casino, put you in my car, drove you here. And if anyone had tried to stop us, I would have gone through them." Frank wiped his eyes roughly, almost angry at himself for the display of emotion. "You scared us, Charlie. You really scared us." "I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. Just promise me you'll be smarter about this stuff. Your body can't do everything your talent wants it to. Nobody's body can, not even yours." Sammy was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, "You canceled the show?" "Of course I canceled the show. But the audience?" "Fuck the audience," Frank said bluntly. "They'll get their money back, they'll see another show another night. But there's only one Sammy Davis Jr., and he needed to be in a hospital, not on a stage. That's going to cost the Sands a fortune. Jack N. Trader will survive, and if he complains, I'll pay him back myself. Sammy, will you stop worrying about the goddamn show? You collapsed. You nearly died. That's more important than ticket sales or hotel revenue or keeping people entertained." "You really love me, don't you, Frank?" Frank looked at him, and all the usual defenses and posturing dropped away. "Yeah, Charlie, I really love you. More than you apparently love yourself, considering you almost killed yourself trying to perform. I just wanted to be good enough, to deserve to be on that stage with you and Dean and the guys." "Sammy," Frank's voice was gentle now, the anger gone, leaving only affection. "You're better than all of us put together. You've got more talent in your little finger than most people have in their whole body. I say that on stage as a joke, but it's true. You don't have to prove anything. Not to me, not to Dean, not to anyone. You already proved it 1,000 times over." Tears were running down Sammy's face now. "I just didn't want to let you down." "You could never let me down. Not by being sick, not by being human. The only way you could let me down is by not taking care of yourself, by not being here." Frank squeezed Sammy's hand. "We need you, Charlie, not just for shows, but because you're family, and family looks after each other." The story of what Frank did that night spread through Las Vegas and then through Hollywood like wildfire. The image of Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Peter Lawford carrying Sammy Davis Jr. through the casino became iconic, was captured by photographers who'd rushed to the scene, made front pages across the country. But what most people focused on was the wrong thing. They talked about the drama, about seeing stars in crisis, about the spectacle of famous entertainers dealing with real problems in real time. What they missed, what the headlines couldn't quite capture, was the deeper story. Frank Sinatra had made a decision in seconds that revealed his priorities. He could have waited for the ambulance, could have let the professionals handle it, could have worried about the show, about the audience, about the financial implications. Instead, he'd scooped up his friend and run. He'd driven through Las Vegas traffic at dangerous speeds. He'd bullied his way past hospital staff. He'd stayed by Sammy's bedside, refusing to leave. He showed a side of himself that the tough guy image didn't quite allow for: vulnerability, fear, love.
The Rat Pack was famous for their performances, for their swagger and their cool. But that night revealed what it really was: a family. Flawed, complicated, but genuine. And when one of them fell, the others were there to catch him. Dean returned to the hospital room around midnight, carrying coffee and looking exhausted. He took one look at Frank and Sammy, Frank still holding Sammy's hand, both of them looking wrung out but at peace, and smiled. "You two are a hell of a sight," Dean said, handing Frank a coffee. "The great Frank Sinatra, reduced to playing nursemaid." "Fuck off, Dino," Frank said without heat. "How's he doing?" "Better," Frank said. "Doctor says he'll make a full recovery if he actually rests and takes care of himself." Dean looked at Sammy. "You hear that, Sam? You gotta rest. No more of this tough guy bullshit, trying to perform when you're half dead."
"Frank already gave me that speech," Sammy said weakly.
"Good, because if you scare us like that again, I'm gonna kill you myself."
Dean's voice was light, but his eyes were serious.
"We can't do this without you, Sam. The shows don't work without you. We don't work without you. You guys are making me feel guilty for getting sick."
"Good," Frank and Dean said simultaneously, then looked at each other and laughed. The tension that had been suffocating the room since they'd arrived at the hospital finally eased. They were going to be okay. Sammy was going to be okay. The Rat Pack would perform together again. But something had shifted. They all knew it, even if they didn't say it out loud. They'd come too close to losing one of their own, had been reminded that their invincibility was an illusion, that fame and talent didn't protect you from the basic fragility of human existence.
"You know the press is going crazy, right?" Dean said, settling into the other chair. "Photographers everywhere, reporters calling the hospital, entrators getting bombarded with questions."
"Let them speculate," Frank said. "All that matters is Sammy's okay."
The audience tonight, they were amazing actually. When Joey explained what happened, that Sammy had collapsed and you guys had taken him to the hospital, people started applauding, standing ovation for 5 minutes. Joey said it was like they were sending their energy, their good wishes. Sammy smiled. "That's nice." "It is nice," Dean agreed. "But it also means everyone's going to be watching when you come back. The comeback show is going to be huge." "Let's get him healthy first before we start planning comeback shows," Frank said. "I'm just saying, I know what you're saying. But right now, tonight, tomorrow, for however long it takes, we focus on getting Sammy better. The shows can wait." Dean nodded, recognizing the finality in Frank's tone. "You're right, the shows can wait." They sat together in companionable silence, 3 friends who'd been through too much together to need constant conversation. The monitors beeped steadily, tracking Sammy's improving vital signs. Outside the hospital room, the world kept spinning, kept making news, kept being the chaotic, beautiful mess it always was. But in that room, time seemed suspended. 3 members of the Rat Pack, stripped of the performance and the swagger, just being present for each other in the way that real friendship required. Sammy stayed in the hospital for 9 days. Frank visited every single day, sometimes for hours, sometimes just for a few minutes between obligations. He'd bring food from Sammy's favorite restaurants, would tell stories to keep Sammy entertained, would sit in silence when Sammy was too tired to talk. Dean came frequently, always bringing laughter and lightness, making sure Sammy didn't sink into depression or self-recrimination. Peter visited when he was in town. Joey stopped by with jokes and gossip from the entertainment world. But it was Frank's presence that seemed most important to Sammy. Frank, who was notoriously impatient, who hated hospitals, who had a million obligations and demands on his time, Frank kept showing up, kept being there, kept reminding Sammy that he mattered beyond what he could do on stage. When Sammy was finally discharged, Frank insisted he recuperated Frank's compound in Palm Springs. "You're not going home to an empty house," Frank said, brooking no argument. "You're staying with me where Barbara can make sure you're eating right and resting and not trying to sneak out to rehearse or record or do any of the stupid shit you'd do if left to your own devices." Sammy, too weak to argue and secretly grateful for the care, agreed. He spent 3 weeks in Palm Springs, gaining back weight, regaining strength, being mothered by Barbara Sinatra, and occasionally Frank himself, who proved surprisingly capable of nursing when he wanted to be. They spent long afternoons by the pool, Frank and Sammy, talking about everything and nothing, about show business and politics and music and life, about fear and mortality and the strange burden of fame. "You know the press is going crazy, right?" Dean said, settling into the other chair. "Photographers everywhere, reporters calling the hospital, entrators getting bombarded with questions." "Let them speculate," Frank said. "All that matters is Sammy's okay." The audience tonight, they were amazing actually. When Joey explained what happened, that Sammy had collapsed and you guys had taken him to the hospital, people started applauding, standing ovation for 5 minutes. Joey said it was like they were sending their energy, their good wishes.
Sammy smiled. That's nice. It is nice, Dean agreed. But it also means everyone's going to be watching when you come back. The comeback show's going to be huge. Let's get him healthy first before we start planning comeback shows, Frank said. I'm just saying, I know what you're saying. But right now, tonight, tomorrow, for however long it takes, we focus on getting Sammy better. The shows can wait. Dean nodded, recognizing the finality in Frank's tone. You're right, the shows can wait. They sat together in companionable silence, three friends who'd been through too much together to need constant conversation. The monitors beeped steadily, tracking Sammy's improving vital signs. Outside the hospital room, the world kept spinning, kept making news, kept being the chaotic, beautiful mess it always was. But in that room, time seemed suspended. Three members of the Rat Pack, stripped of the performance and the swagger, just being present for each other in the way that real friendship required. Sammy stayed in the hospital for 9 days. Frank visited every single day, sometimes for hours, sometimes just for a few minutes between obligations. He'd bring food from Sammy's favorite restaurants, would tell stories to keep Sammy entertained, would sit in silence when Sammy was too tired to talk. Dean came frequently, always bringing laughter and lightness, making sure Sammy didn't sink into depression or self-recrimination. Peter visited when he was in town. Joey stopped by with jokes and gossip from the entertainment world. But it was Frank's presence that seemed most important to Sammy. Frank, who was notoriously impatient, who hated hospitals, who had a million obligations and demands on his time, Frank kept showing up, kept being there, kept reminding Sammy that he mattered beyond what he could do on stage. When Sammy was finally discharged, Frank insisted he recuperated Frank's compound in Palm Springs. You're not going home to an empty house, Frank said, brooking no argument. You're staying with me where Barbara can make sure you're eating right and resting and not trying to sneak out to rehearse or record or do any of the stupid shit you'd do if left to your own devices. Sammy, too weak to argue and secretly grateful for the care, agreed. He spent 3 weeks in Palm Springs, gaining back weight, regaining strength, being mothered by Barbara Sinatra, and occasionally Frank himself, who proved surprisingly capable of nursing when he wanted to be. They spent long afternoons by the pool, Frank and Sammy, talking about everything and nothing, about show business and politics and music and life, about fear and mortality and the strange burden of fame. You saved my life, Sammy said one afternoon, the Palm Springs sun warm on his face, his body finally starting to feel like his own again. The doctor saved your life, Frank corrected. But you got me to them. The doctor said if you had waited for an ambulance, I wasn't gonna wait, not when I could do something. Frank lit a cigarette, offered one to Sammy, then remembered the doctor's orders and put the pack away. Sorry, it's okay, I'm trying to quit anyway. Sammy was quiet for a moment. Frank, why did you do it? Why did you stop the show, cancel everything, put me in your car and drive like a maniac? You could have just called an ambulance like anyone else would have. Frank looked at his friend, this complicated, talented, troubled man who'd become one of the most important people in his life. Because you're you, Sammy. Because when someone I care about is in trouble, I don't wait for someone else to handle it. I handle it myself. Even when it costs you, especially when it costs me. That's when it matters most. Frank took a drag on his cigarette, offered one to Sammy, then remembered the doctor's orders and put the pack away. Sorry, it's okay, I'm trying to quit anyway. Sammy was quiet for a moment. Frank, why did you do it? Why did you stop the show, cancel everything, put me in your car and drive like a maniac? You could have just called an ambulance like anyone else would have. Frank looked at his friend, this complicated, talented, troubled man who'd become one of the most important people in his life. Because you're you, Sammy. Because when someone I care about is in trouble, I don't wait for someone else to handle it. I handle it myself. Even when it costs you, especially when it costs me. That's when it matters most. Frank took a drag on his cigarette, offered one to Sammy, then remembered the doctor's orders and put the pack away. Sorry, it's okay, I'm trying to quit anyway. Sammy was quiet for a moment. Frank, why did you do it? Why did you stop the show, cancel everything, put me in your car and drive like a maniac?
Good, because the world needs Sammy Davis Jr., and I need my friend. They sat in silence, two men who'd been through more together than most people experience in a lifetime. Two men who'd built a friendship that transcended show business and fame, and all the complications that came with both. "Frank," Sammy said eventually, "Yeah? Thank you for everything. For saving my life, yeah, but also for..." Sammy struggled to find the words. "For making me feel like I matter, not as a performer, but as a person. That's the real gift. That's what I'll remember." Frank looked at Sammy, and all his usual defenses, the toughness, the swagger, the carefully maintained image, dropped away. "You do matter, Charlie, more than you know. To me, to Dean, to everyone who really knows you. Don't ever forget that." Sammy Davis Jr. returned to performing 6 weeks after his collapse, making his comeback at the Sands with a show that became legendary. The Copa Room was packed beyond capacity, with people standing in aisles and crowding the bar, all wanting to witness Sammy's return. Frank insisted on being there for opening night, along with the entire Rat Pack. They stood in the wings, watching Sammy take the stage to a standing ovation that lasted 5 full minutes before he could even begin to perform. When Sammy finally started singing, there was something different in his performance. The talent was all still there, the voice, the dancing, the charisma that made him one of the greatest entertainers of his generation. But there was also something new, a vulnerability, an openness, an acknowledgement of his own humanity that made the performance even more powerful. During one song, Sammy paused and addressed the audience directly. "I want to thank you all for the support you showed when I got sick. The letters, the flowers, the prayers. It meant everything to me. But I especially want to thank someone who probably saved my life that night." The spotlight swung to the wings where Frank stood. Frank shook his head, trying to stay out of the spotlight, but Sammy insisted. "Frank Sinatra, ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of the board, my friend, my brother, the man who carried me out of this very room when I collapsed and drove me to the hospital himself, because he wasn't going to trust anyone else to get me there fast enough." The audience erupted in applause. Frank, clearly uncomfortable with the attention, tried to wave it off, but Sammy wasn't having it. "No, Frank, you're gonna take this, because what you did that night, stopping the show, putting me first, refusing to leave my side, that's what real friendship looks like. That's what real love looks like, and I want everyone to know it." Frank, never comfortable with genuine emotion in public, managed a small smile and a nod, but his eyes were wet, and everyone who knew him could see that he was moved. Later, after the show, when the Rat Pack gathered for drinks, Dean raised his glass. "To Sammy, back where he belongs." "To Sammy," Frank echoed, clinking glasses. "And to Frank," Sammy added, "who showed all of us what loyalty really means." "I just did what anyone would do," Frank muttered. "Bullshit," Dean said cheerfully. "Most people would have called an ambulance and let the professionals handle it. You scooped him up and carried him out yourself. That's pure Frank Sinatra right there." "Damn right it is," Joey agreed. "And it's why we love you, even when you're being an overbearing, controlling pain in the ass." Frank smiled despite himself. "You guys are getting soft in your old age." "Maybe," Peter said, "but that night showed us something important. Showed the world something important. That all the swagger and the cool and the Rat Pack image, underneath all that, we're real friends, real family, and when it matters, we show up for each other." They drank to that, these 5 men who'd come together almost by accident and had created something that transcended entertainment. They'd become a symbol of friendship, of loyalty, of living life on your own terms while still having each other's backs. The night Sammy Davis Jr. collapsed on stage could have been a tragedy,
could have been the end of one of the greatest talents of his generation. Instead, because of Frank Sinatra's instant decision to take action, because of his refusal to wait or defer or trust anyone else with his friend's life, it became something else, a testament to what real friendship looks like when it's tested. Frank's next move had shocked everyone, but in retrospect, for anyone who really knew him, it shouldn't have been surprising at all, because that's who Frank Sinatra was. When the lights went down and the performance stopped, when it was just him and someone he loved in trouble, he didn't hesitate. He didn't calculate. He just acted. He carried his friend off that stage, drove him through Las Vegas, refused to leave his side, showed the world that beneath all the fame and swagger was a man who understood what mattered: people, loyalty, love.